Well, hello, everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our final panel today. I think it's going to be one of our best. We have with us 4 young MBA entrepreneurs who are pursuing their own ideas and startups. They're at various stages of development, and they're all from our #1 program for entrepreneurship. That's at the Olin Business School at Washington University. So let me welcome each and every one of you, and let me introduce each and every one of you first. We have Tova Feinberg, who will be graduating in 2022. Next year, she's going to go online with a really cool e-commerce bakery that will specialize in gluten-free baking products. It's called STL Loaves. We'll get the lowdown on that as soon as we get the chance to chat with Tova. Then we have Shannon Turner, who's a 2018 graduate of the Olin School, has her MBA from Olin, and she founded a nonprofit that does development work in Ecuador. It's called the Maria Lida. Maybe I got that wrong. Lida?
Lida, that was great. Yeah, Lida.
Lida Foundation. She's the founder, and I can't wait to hear about that. And I think I'm loving the fact that we have a social impact person on the crew here, because it just shows you the variety, the diversity of startup activity in business schools, and particularly at Olin. We have Lloyd Yate. Lloyd Yate is a 2022 MBA. So he's in his first year in the Olin Business School program. And he's got a really unusual venture in a way. It's ties. You know, I thought, look, I don't have a tie on. I must be too old to enjoy ties. No, only kidding. Now I noticed that Lloyd certainly has a tie. We want a close up on his tie, make sure it's from his own company. And then we have Byron Porter, who will be graduating this year. Is a really cool startup called Hum Industrial Technology, and we'll find all about that soon enough. Great variety, clothing, food, nonprofit development, and industrial tech. I mean, what great variety is that? Why don't we start with Shannon? Shannon, you graduated, 2 years ago. So you're the old one here, believe it or not. Tell us about your startup. Tell us about your foundation, how you came to it, and give us a sense for what you're doing.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me. So again, my name is Shannon Turner, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Maria Lida Foundation, and it is Lida, so great job with the pronunciation on that. I'm actually a product of an immigrant family from Ecuador, South America, to the United States. And I've always felt extremely blessed to get the education that I've received in the States, and have always had a passion to use that education to get back to my roots. And so during my Olin MBA journey, I always had kind of an idea that I would like to start a social enterprise to benefit Ecuador. And throughout my time, I really developed the idea, and the Maria Lida Foundation was created shortly after graduation. It's a nonprofit organization that promotes self-sustaining economic development in a small town called LOC, which is where my family's from. It's in the Sierra, the mountain range of Ecuador. And we're trying to use education, vocational training, and tourism as vehicles for economic development in the area.
Now, give me one idea of a project that you're working on. A specific project.
Sure. So something that we recently started was a business consulting program with the local indigenous community. LOC has a lot of indigenous populations living near and around it. And so we've been starting to provide business consulting services. Obviously, tourism has taken a big hit, unfortunately, during this time, but we still believe that it is going to eventually make a recovery. And something that we can help the local community do in the meantime is maybe promote tourism to the domestic population in tourism as people start to kind of move around within the country. And this indigenous community has an amazing different features that can be enjoyed outside safely and with social distancing. And so something that we're working on right now is to help them to formulate marketing strategies and business strategies to really increase tourism to that area.
Terrific. Now, Byron, I love the name of your company, Hum. Now, that suggests to me that you're doing something to allow companies to do something that hums. Tell us
That's exactly right. Yeah, and that's one thing they don't talk about in business school as far as naming a company. You think it's easy. That took like 3 months to get to that point. Maybe it's just my sad story, but Hum, coming from I cut my teeth in a manufacturing plant. I'm an engineer by trade, and a hum is the best noise you can have in a process. So a hum means everything is good. It's going right along. If it's quiet, that's a big issue, and if it's loud, that's also an issue. And so we use wireless sensors on freight rail cars to do a variety of things, one of which is vibration monitoring and temperature analytics. And so we can predict when those components are going to fail, months to even years in advance before they do. So the rotating assembly, the wheels, the bearings of the rail car. So it solves a big need. But yeah, so we keep them humming instead of having those big breaks or derailments or any other kind of failure.
So it's kind of like an early warning system to take equipment off and get it fixed and repaired and upgraded before it actually fails. Is that essentially it?
Correct. And maintenance planning and management, this is predictive maintenance. Right now, the rail industry is on a reactive maintenance cycle. So it just happens, they have a derailment, something breaks in the rail car, and then you have oil that gets spilled in a lake, or you have an explosion, with flammable material. This is a way of taking care of that maintenance at the right time in the right place.
And how in the world did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, so this is maybe something they talk a little bit more about in business school. This was idea number 2. So this was a pivot. So I had spent time in a rail yard. I managed a crew of workers in a rail yard. I was familiar with the impact of rail on a big ag business, a big processing plant. But yeah, the first idea didn't last the first customer visit. So I spent a good summer trying to figure out what on earth I was going to do after I turned down a really nice internship on a more traditional path. And I came across some technology that was developed and partnered with the researcher who'd kind of brought it to pass. And my CTO was a big part of that. He came on board, and we've kind of been going since.
Wow, that's great. Now, Tova, STL Lowe's. What does STL stand for?
St. Louis.
Of course it does. Tell us about your e-commerce bakery.
Sure. So it really stemmed from the pandemic. It was very hard for me coming from a food and beverage background, seeing a lot of these restaurants shutting down left and right. And then I actually lost my bartending job that I was having while I was studying for grad school. So really just the impact that I've seen personally, as well as just everyone around me. And I wanted to do something that could really impact the people's lives within the community, as well as people within the nation, from a passion of mine, which is always food. So we decided to do an e-commerce bakery business, and always the best way to someone's stomach is through sweets. So we decided to do it's based off of Friendship Amish bread.
Huh.
So it's sweet breads.
Yeah.
Very gluten-full, but we will also have gluten-free options as well to cater to those who have the allergies. But we plan to ship nationwide. I currently do deliveries here in St. Louis, and I've started to ship as well. And we plan to launch the website in 2021.
Wow. Now, where do you bake?
Currently, I bake out of my house. I did have a commercial kitchen, but just due to the volume of school, I toned it down, and now I bake from my kitchen. We do get some regular orders in, and then I've been baking in batches for the students at WashU, which actually helped me with my market research for flavors to launch.
That's great. I'm just curious, when you say flavors, like what are the most popular flavors that you sell?
I want to say the top probably 4 would be the vanilla chocolate chip, which definitely is my personal favorite, but also every child's favorite. Cinnamon swirl is the best compliment with coffee, especially in the morning. A more authentic flavor, I'd say, would be our blueberry lemon. It's just a great combination of flavors.
Good.
It's very nice. It's dense yet it's light, so it's a nice balance. We are coming out with new seasonal flavors. So our newest seasonal flavor that's the most popular so far is our pumpkin cheesecake.
Pumpkin cheesecake. Now, what a wonderful thing that is. Come on. Can't beat that. But I can't place an order right now. I got to wait until 2021, right?
So you actually can. I do have a Facebook page that we use, and people are able to put in orders through that Facebook page.
Oh, cool. Okay. How do they find you on Facebook?
So if you search on Facebook, STL Loaves Share the Love, it will pull up to our Facebook page, and then there's a direct messaging link there as well. So you can message.
All right, there you have it. So Lloyd, can you get close to the camera? I'm assuming that's one of your ties, is it not?
Yes, it is. I wear nothing but my ties.
Now, why in the world would a guy like you want to be in the tie business?
Yeah, that's a great question. And well, first I want to say I'm honored to be on this panel. Everyone's doing awesome things. You as well with Poets and Quants, and everybody at WashU loves Tova's bread. So I can definitely be a recommender.
It's an endorsement, Tova.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
I started my company Tillman Ties a couple years ago as I was finishing up my undergraduate studies at Northwestern University. There, I was a student athlete. I was on the football team, a scholarship quarterback on the football team. And before every game day, we were prescribed to wear a shirt and tie. And
Really?
Yeah. Or it was something that a lot of guys took pride in. A lot of guys just saw it as a mandatory task. But for the guys that took a lot of pride in it, we always wanted to showcase our style. And before each year, the staff and coaches would give us a tie and a blazer, but we would never wear it because it was low quality. It was kind of not stylish at all. So it kind of went to waste. So I saw this opportunity to vamp up the formal accessory style in the academia space. And I noticed not only with sports teams, but even in the bookstores. If you go to an academic bookstore, all the ties are lower quality polyester material and just kind of logos plastered all over. So me being a tie guy, I love suits and ties. It just kind of made sense.
So part of what you're doing is updating the ties that are associated with different schools, because you're right, they are polyester. They're pretty boring. They just have a bunch of symbols on. Are you actually taking like big universities and saying, hey, I can do this and do it in the cool, updated way? Is that part of the shtick?
Yeah, that's exactly a part of it. You know, specifically with targeting sports teams first, because a lot of sports teams are prescribed to wear the shirt and tie. You know, sports teams like to quote it as a business trip. You know, when you go, and this was kind of pre-COVID. COVID kind of shifted things a little bit, but we were definitely targeting universities and sports teams specifically.
What kind of quarterback were you?
The best kind.
Wait a minute. Did you run the ball a lot, or did you like a long pass?
You know, I definitely like to
did it all.
Yeah, I definitely try to do it all. So.
That's great. So let's stay with you, Lloyd, for a second. When did you know you really wanted to become an entrepreneur, and how did you know?
Yeah, I definitely know I wanted to be kind of a business owner, entrepreneur since high school.
Oh, wow.
I think it stemmed from my father. My father is a trained physician, but he moved into private practice, and since private practice started opening up other businesses, and I've seen the success he's been able to come to, a lot of the hard work that he's been able to put in, and kind of the reward that's been an outcome of it. Not only kind of personally into our family, but I think what's really inspiring to me is the impact he's had on our communities growing up, on his alma mater, on his former high school, and on the people he employs. I think, you know, if I could create some jobs, I think that would be a very fulfilling feeling for me. So I definitely knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur for a long time.
totally agree. I think the best part of entrepreneurship is generating meaningful employment for others, frankly. Shannon, 4 years ago, when you entered Olin in the MBA program, did you know you would end up doing what you're doing?
I would say I had a strong feeling, yes.
Okay.
Right before I entered the MBA program at Olin, I actually went on a trip to Ecuador for the first time to really explore, where my family on my father's side and where he grew up before he moved to the United States. I had never been there before.
Wow.
And I found that Ecuador is just such a beautiful country. It's so much closer than people realize to the United States, and such a beautiful people, but unfortunately has a lot of poverty. And so that really stuck in my mind as I started my MBA studies. And I really was looking for a program that was entrepreneurial and had a robust curriculum to really explore starting a social enterprise.
So that visit to your parents' homeland sparked your interest in wanting to do something for your country.
Yes, definitely. I every time I would be in a class and we would start to talk about something maybe relevant or just social impact and social enterprises, I was constantly thinking about Ecuador and the things that I had experienced and saw, and who I had talked to there about some issues that could be solved through business. And so it was definitely on my mind during my studies.
Great. Now, Tova, when did you know you wanted to become an entrepreneur?
So I've known definitely since I was a kid, especially within the food and beverage industry. I just saw like people's reactions as far as when someone just ate something small or drank something they really liked.
Now, don't tell me you had a lemonade stand as a kid.
I wasn't the lemonade stand kid. No, I was
Okay.
not. We used to host office parties here at home in St. Louis. I'm born and raised here. And so it would just be my whole family would go to Costco. We would get all the ingredients for the party. It would be like 100 people party. You'd see me peeling potatoes, 50 pounds of them, like peeling the carrots, getting everything ready. We did not want to use caterers. So really just the joy of food started ever since I was a kid. And as far as like owning my own business, it was always a challenge because I just saw a lot of food and beverage businesses left and right just did not succeed for various reasons. So it was honestly the pandemic that was the main spark that was like, okay, I can really make an impact on something. How can I kind of modernize the food and beverage industry to make it work in something like a situation that we're dealing with now?
Right. Now, Byron, when did you figure out you wanted to become an entrepreneur, and how did you know?
Well, I admire all these people here who knew from early days. I had no intention of being an entrepreneur at all. I was hoping for a nice, cushy general management job when I entered business school, and
There you go.
work for a big industrial company. I knew I wanted to run my own show, but it wasn't really until I talked to a good friend of mine who'd spent 15 years at GE, and he was doing his own thing entrepreneurially then, and he kind of encouraged me to take a look at it and realize, I share a lot of the same interests that he did. And my last role before business school was very independent. I could do a whole lot of things. And so I just, I gave it a shot, and I thought maybe I'll intern or work a little bit for a startup. And it wasn't, 4 or 5 months into school, and I decided to start the company. So it's just too good of an opportunity once it came.
It's funny you mentioned GE, because as you were telling me about your idea, I'm thinking your exit strategy is to sell the GE transportation.
There'd be a possibility. We're working through the supply chain, but there's a lot of markets we can really tap into where a GE or Siemens plays in.
Let's talk a little bit about how the business school experience and the MBA program at Olin is supporting you in one way or the other, with what you're being taught, with what resources are available, with the general, encouragement and support network that you're surrounded by. Shannon, how since you're been out now for 2 years, can you look back and reflect on how the MBA experience shaped your thinking about your foundation?
Absolutely. My MBA education at Olin was so instrumental to my entrepreneurial journey and where my career is at now. Just to speak really quick as an alum from my perspective, I still have a great relationship with the school, and they're still very much helping me and cheering me on with this journey. I'm actually a client for what they have is the Center for Experiential Learning, where students can work on consulting projects for different enterprises. And this fall is actually my second time being a client for that program. And that's just been instrumental in helping us to formalize more strategies, especially during the pandemic. And so that's been super helpful. I actually have one of my old professors from the MBA program, Hillary Anger Elfenbein, who is a wonderful professor in the MBA program, on our board of directors. And I have one of my classmates, Paula Moscoso, who is actually on our board of directors as well. So just even as an alum, the school has been instrumental in this journey. And as a student, I was really able to explore my idea through my intro to entrepreneurship class, my hatchery classes, where I had to pitch this idea. And it started out as something very different and has evolved over time into the Maria Lita Foundation. It started as a mountain climbing, horseback riding, social enterprise that has evolved again into this nonprofit organization. But it was super helpful. All of the professors, again, all of the curriculum that I was able to have, all of the resources has just been great. I can't say enough things.
Now, was your idea hatched in the hatchery?
It was actually hatched, well, a version of it in my intro to entrepreneurship class, which at that time was taught by Cliff Holcamp, who has been instrumental to the school's entrepreneurship platform and program.
He's an incredible guy. I had the pleasure of having dinner with him in St. Louis.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, you walk out of there and you want to start a business no matter what.
Yes, yes, he has that way to convince you that this is the right path for you, which I love. But in that class, we had to pitch a business idea, and I was really honestly thinking about different ideas. What am I going to pitch? And I kept going back to this idea with Ecuador, and so I said, okay, I'm going to pitch it. And it ended up being one of the top ideas in the class. And so I ended up doing a feasibility study around it with a team. And then it kind of just evolved from there. And then the next semester, I took the hatchery course. So I was able to dive even deeper and actually pitch the idea to real investors in the St. Louis community, which was a wonderful experience.
Right. Now, Byron, did your idea get hatched in the hatchery or not really? Because you were having this burning desire to do this 4 months into the program. The hatchery, I imagine, is an elective course. So that comes later, but maybe you took your idea into the hatchery and perhaps it was refined in some meaningful way.
Yeah. By then I'd already sunk at least half my savings into it. So yeah, no, I think I had the idea. Actually, another Cliff shout out had a great influence on me as well and got me into thinking about how I'd enter the entrepreneurial space. And I ended up at a conference and had the idea just before the intro to entrepreneurship class. And so I did the same thing where I used that as a feasibility study. That was the first idea and everything looked great. And at the end, after the semester, I went to a customer and then they shot it down. So, I guess maybe it helped me work to that end a little bit faster. But yeah, just great resources at WashU. You can't say enough about that. Between the classes, the professors, I'm still in contact with at least a half a dozen professors there on different questions with marketing strategy and pricing and all sorts of stuff. Just a wealth of resources out of WashU.
So Lloyd, you brought your idea to WashU. How helpful has the school been in helping you move it along?
Yeah, I think the school's been super helpful. I mean, Shannon and Byron both mentioned Cliff Holcamp. He was somebody that I have been connected to as well, just through the entrepreneurship program. And I definitely say, I think Tova can attest to this as well, but there's definitely a multitude of different funding resources, of different professors who are looking to help you grow and scale your business, whether that be with, marketing, with strategy, with operations. And it's been really fun just taking these, fun and rigorous, taking these kind of core MBA classes to get kind of these technical skills of accounting, of econ, of operations management, of strategy, that we've been able to, directly apply to our businesses. So it's been a fun, 6-7 weeks, and I'm excited to see kind of how it evolves from here.
Right. And now, Tova, you've used the community around you as basically your guinea pigs for your company and your products, right?
I have, yes. To attest to Lloyd, what he just mentioned, not only am I learning the foundational language of business and kind of really being able to apply my business to what I'm learning in these classes, but I've also had really great connections as far as like the other peers in my class and the class ahead of me, really cheering me on and like really spreading the word about these breads and buying them and tasting them and giving me constructive feedback as well as, great comments. And also professors. I did not have the pleasure of working with the professor they mentioned, but I have been working with Doug Vilhard, who has been one of the leads in entrepreneurship, and he has been truly amazing. I met him before the year began. He's really been there step by step. I just entered the SVC competition as well, the Scandalaris Venture competition. So really just hands-on, just learning how to pitch my idea, learning how to do the executive summary and going for the seed money so I could really grow this business, which is super exciting.
Right. And I should tell everyone that Doug was in my fireside chat earlier today, and you should look it up. He's a very inspirational character, a serial entrepreneur himself, or a really great role model, I would think. Now, usually I don't do this. I don't bring questions in from the audience in the midstream, but I want to read this because I think it's kind of cool. Quote, "You guys have awesome stories. I myself am thinking of transitioning to entrepreneurship post MBA. Since business school costs quite a hefty sum for most students, how did you reconcile that with your desire to become an entrepreneur? How did you do the cost benefit analysis in your mind?" Tova?
There's always that lingering thing in the back of your mind about money, money, money. And there's no doubt that this program it's intense as far as financials, but one, the school is really there. And there's a lot of ways for financial aid. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities. And really to balance it with the business, it's about your passion. If you're really passionate for your business, then you go for it. And it's nice, as Lloyd and I mentioned, you can really apply your business to school. So you're not really strained on picking a side. You can apply both at once. So I think also a way that I thought of it was not only is this an education, but it's me to have the tools to build a business and to really succeed in the world to come, especially with all the changes that have been coming. So think of it more as just an education, but more of just like really the tools to succeed in life.
Yes. Now, Shannon, you're in a whole different world because you're in the nonprofit sector, where obviously the rewards are not going to be as great for you, but your rewards will be psychic rewards, the emotional high of knowing you're doing really good for a lot of people who really need help. How did you figure your way through this sort of cost benefit analysis?
Yeah, it was definitely a big question, but I'll echo some of what Tova was saying. I think that WashU is a great community, and they really do work with you and do have a lot of opportunities for financial aid, which can help. And for me, yeah, I just have such a burning passion to truly give back to my roots and just leave this legacy. And I just really want to do that in the world. So to me, it's worth it. That being said, I obviously have support from family members and things like that to help me along the way as well.
Sure. And Lloyd, how did you look at this in terms of the cost of MBA tuition, and your desire to become an entrepreneur, which means also that obviously you need some capital to launch your business and be successful?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is no easy decision by any means. Fortunately, in my situation specifically, I applied through the consortium, which is a graduate program, and I was a recipient of a scholarship, so that made things a little bit easier. But as far as kind of sticking with entrepreneurship, it's something that I I just kind of jumped right in. As I mentioned, as an undergrad, I just jumped right into it. Didn't really think twice about it. And because of that, I've invested a lot of time, blood, sweat, tears, as some will say, and a lot of money as well. So for me, it's kind of, I got to make this thing work. And I saw pursuing my MBA, especially at a place like Olin, which is #1 for entrepreneurship. As you mentioned, John, is Tova. Doug Villard is amazing and has been leading this program. I saw it as kind of a no-brainer that, even if I did have to kind of take on these costs of school, I think the future benefit of this MBA and learning entrepreneurship in this program would help me be able to achieve my vision, which is to grow into a global brand. So it was kind of a no-brainer.
And I should point out, look, some people have to pay full freight, but the truth is there's a lot of scholarship money out there. And so I like to look at it this way. There's a sticker price that you see on the website, and then the real price you end up paying. And in many cases, if you don't have a lot of savings and if you didn't have a job that paid a lot of money, most schools will actually help you out and make it happen. The other thing is, if you're pursuing entrepreneurship, there are an unbelievable number of competitions that you can apply to, pitch your idea, and gain money from it. It also so happens that alumni and fellow students often are willing to reach into their pockets and kind of be your initial angel investors. This happens in a lot of different circumstances. Now, Byron, what was your situation in terms of funding your MBA plus your business at the same time?
Well, I always thought I wasn't a real risky person until I did this, but we lived off of, and in my situation is a little different too. I'm married. I've got two small boys, and it's a lot, especially when that first idea fell flat. It was a long drive home, figuring out, what did I just do to my family? And but we had some good savings built up. When that ran out, dipped into my 401k, and fortunately we were able to get through till we got some investors in the business. But I think Shannon said it best. When you have the idea, when you see the opportunity, it's the passion kind of takes over, and nothing's going to stop you from making it happen. And there's a lot of things in life that you could have maybe with a little bit more comfort and ease. I'm not really interested in those. I'm really interested in kind of making something happen out here, like I think everyone else is. And so money was definitely a secondary thing, although I'm very, very blessed to have an understanding wife who only took about 5 minutes to really jump behind me. Otherwise, I wouldn't do this at all. So it's different for everyone, for sure.
Now, there are a lot of people out there who say, hey, if you have an idea and you want to launch a business, instead of going to business school for an MBA, just take the money you would spend on the tuition and use it to launch your business and go at it. Now, what's your take on that? Why did you think it was helpful, maybe even necessary, to get an MBA to do what ultimately you're doing, Brian?
I think there actually is a lot of truth to that. Yeah, and I've thought a lot about this as people have asked me, why did you get an MBA when you started a business? And, for me, it was perfect. For me, it was just right. And as I mentioned, I had no intention of going down this path. Otherwise, maybe I wouldn't have gone to business school. But I think having been through it, I am able to avoid maybe 80-90% of the mistakes that startup founders make. Because I have the frameworks, I've got the resources, and when you go to school, you buy an alumni network. And so I had a huge help. I mean, all along the way, the faculty, I mean, everything, just phenomenal. So I increased the chance of my business succeeding dramatically. And I don't know that I would have taken the plunge and I had 2 years of time to really kind of experiment if I was still working full time. So I think some of it's, you look back, or maybe you're just looking at it through rose-colored glasses, but I don't know if that's the same story, if the numbers work out, if you say, I could do this all without business school.
Yeah, no, I think you make a really good point. You're de-risking your venture. Okay, so as an engineer, what did you know about marketing, finance, accounting, strategy, operations? Maybe you knew a little bit of operations, but you probably didn't know anything about marketing or strategy or finance or accounting. And so knowing those basics, I think, are important to making smart decisions for yourself and your business. Also, just, working with others, collaborating with others, getting the best out of people, motivating them. As your business grows and you gain employees and you have a real organization to run, those skills are going to be instrumental. Lloyd, why didn't you just take your money and plunk it down on your Thai company and say, I don't need this MBA?
Well, I really echo what Brian was saying. Kind of getting an MBA is invaluable. I think one thing that Doug Villard really expresses is getting an MBA is about kind of learning the language of business, and essentially in growing a business, kind of getting in the boardroom, speaking with board of directors, just kind of being on the same page and on the same wavelength as people who you want to be in rooms with. So I think that's a big thing for sure. As you mentioned too, just learning different things of finance and accounting that weren't my strong suits.
Sure.
And then I think lastly for me, kind of to Brian's point as well, de-risking it. I think an MBA helps give me a better chance, right? Because an MBA will help me get into those rooms, will help me get and attract investors, will help me be more of an asset, moving forward. So getting an MBA was, like I mentioned, was a no-brainer.
Great. Now, Shannon, how about for you?
Yeah, I think I would just echo the same things that, well, for me personally as well, I worked in the legal field for several years before getting my MBA. So I really felt that receiving an MBA education would be beneficial to me because I wanted to learn the foundations and basics of business. And I thought getting a formal education in that would be a great idea. I think that you just have so many resources at your fingertips as a student. It really kind of disarms you in a way to share your idea. I think a lot of people are willing to give advice or to grab coffee or spend time with someone who's a student that's just trying to learn, as opposed to maybe, you're trying to pitch to them for something that you want right away. So I think that that's another great aspect if you're looking to start up your own business, but you want to get an MBA. And it also provides great resources for market research into the industry that you're looking to enter. I mean, it's, again, right at your fingertips, so you can't really beat that. And your network of professors, faculty members, students, current and past and future is such an asset to you and your enterprise.
Yeah, that's really an important point because you're surrounded by an encouraging network of people who want to help you succeed. And your point about, when you're an MBA student, it opens a lot of doors. I mean, people want to help you. And there's the incredible alumni network. You can basically pick up the phone or send an email and know that you're going to get a call back or an answer back fairly quickly. If you're on your own there, and you're trying to start a company and maybe you're looking for suppliers or maybe you're looking for investors, it's different. You're just one of so many. But that affiliation with the school and the fact that you're a student and they remember the times when they were in your situation and they wanted to give back, that's really a helpful and powerful thing. Tova, I bet you've benefited greatly from the network as well, right?
I absolutely have. My story is actually a little different though. I didn't really have the groundwork for STL Lowe's until around June is when we really started. So I already got accepted in the program in April. So it was interesting to see how it kind of evolved at the same time because I'm both interested in corporate marketing as well as entrepreneurship. But now entering the school with this business idea, even if I had the business idea years ago, I still would definitely pursue the MBA. Just reiterating what everyone has said, really just having the tools, it's not only the education, but really having those resources, the networking, really the professional advice that you can get to build this up. It really, takes away from the risk, especially for a food and beverage startup. It definitely puts my mind at ease as well.
Now, one thing I should point out, why is Olin number one? And we look at schools and programs on a number of metrics, but two things really stick out for me when I'm thinking about Olin. Number one is the percentage of all the MBA students who are involved in the entrepreneurship club, meaning that this matters to them. They have a keen interest in it, maybe even a passion. And even if they don't pursue a startup right away, this is something that they see is in their plan for their life. That's a big element of having an environment of people who are supportive, who respect your ideas, who are there to help you. Another really fascinating indicator is the percentage of graduates who actually launch a company. The average across most business schools is 5%. At Olin, it's more than triple that rate. And it's just fascinating to me that we have a school in the Midwest, in St. Louis, not on the coast, where more students right out of school are launching businesses than they are at Harvard, Stanford, or you pick any other school. It's kind of remarkable. And it tells me a lot about both the people who are attracted to Olin and what they get out of the program. So let's go by, why did you choose Olin to begin with? Tova.
The beauty of Olin is not only is it in my hometown of St. Louis, but it reflects off of the culture of St. Louis, which is just very, like, everyone's very personable. You feel like you have the sense of community. You'll walk out into the street, you pass someone, you just wave and say hi. Like, it's just that very natural, friendly environment. And, entering the Olin atmosphere, it's, you have this great reputation of number one entrepreneurship, but you feel like you're at home in a community where you feel you can push your boundaries of learning. So having that nice balance of like comfort, as well as, kind of uncomfortable with as the sense of competition of like, really pushing yourself to learn, has definitely created, my number one choice for Olin, because I definitely want to learn not only about myself, but what I'm capable of and push my boundaries, but also in a setting where I can feel confident enough to do so.
And I will say, having spent some time in St. Louis over many years, I went to grad school in Missouri, not at WashU, but I know how tight the St. Louis business community is. I have firsthand knowledge of that. Everyone knows everybody. Everyone is supportive of everyone. It's not cutthroat. It's not competitive. And it's not like a really big city like New York where no one knows anybody and they all stay on their own, on their own turf, and they never really engage or interact much with each other. In St. Louis, the CEOs, the C-suite people, they all interact with each other. They know each other, they like each other, and they're helpful to each other. And I think that's an important part of the environment as well. Shannon, why Olin?
For me, again, when I was applying to schools, I was really looking at the entrepreneurship programs at MBA programs. And what I really liked about Olin was that it had the opportunity for you to focus your studies on a platform. And within that platform, there's several courses, and they had an option for you to study as a platform commercial entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship. And that really spoke to me, especially the social entrepreneurship portion, because I didn't really see that, at least at the time, at other programs. So that was something that really intrigued me. I also really liked that there were a lot of experiential opportunities in this space. And as someone who didn't have a traditional, business background, I'm someone who likes to learn as I do things. And so that was very attractive to me as well. Again, they have the Center for Experiential Learning, and in that program, you can work as a consultant on various social enterprises. You can sit on the board of a local nonprofit organization, which was extremely helpful, of course, for me in my particular journey, and other startups that are in the community. And lastly, just to kind of echo what was said earlier, I read a lot of articles about St. Louis, which was very interesting to me at the time because I had lived in Washington, D.C. on the East Coast before this, that it was really becoming an entrepreneurial hub, that there was all this activity going on. There were incubators, there were startups, popping up all over the place. So I thought that would be a really interesting place to be to kind of explore this even outside of the actual campus.
Yeah, those are all really good reasons. And I think, the last point you made is a really interesting one, because there is a real ecosystem in the St. Louis metro area, and Olin has played a very important part in it. Partially it's because of the directors of the entrepreneurship program that you've had, either Doug or the guy who made it all happen before him that you mentioned before. And they're very tight with all of the entrepreneurs, the VCs, the angel investors, what you need to make stuff happen, really. Lloyd, why Olin for you?
Yeah, definitely same reasons. I grew up in Chicago. I'm from Chicago. And as far as a community aspect, I definitely feel that St. Louis is a much more tight-knit community and much more supportive of one another, which I think helped attract me to come here. Another reason, really to kind of iterate off what you just mentioned, John, is, the doings of Cliff and Doug. They've really built a program and made entrepreneurship an emphasis. And I think one thing that stood out to me about Doug was he's, an entrepreneur in practice. You mentioned when we opened up, he's a serial entrepreneur, has multiple successful businesses, has failed in the past, and is willing to open up, share those experiences, and help bring you along. So I just really noticed the community that's, stemmed from Doug, that stemmed from the MBA admissions programs, who get to know you by your story, as cliche as that may sound, but it's definitely true. So it all clicked. And when I was in this kind of the searching for a school process, I visited a lot of schools, some in Chicago, some elsewhere, and really no other place felt the same.
Now, well, what about the football team?
Well,
we won't go there, okay?
Well, funny enough, I may actually be on the football team. So,
is that right?
Yes, I have.
I'm sure you could out quarterback whoever the quarterback is. No diss on him. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a good experience so far.
Byron, why Olin for you?
Yeah, there's a number of reasons for sure. But I think the biggest one, and we've all talked about it, is community. I remember coming back from, visiting campuses, and came back from this one, the Olin campus visit. And I remember turning to my wife and saying, I really feel like this is the one, because I feel like if I come here, I can make a difference. I can do something in the community. And growing up I grew up in Central Illinois, and I worked in Central Illinois, and I worked, shoulder to shoulder with a lot of blue collar folks. And I grew up in a Rust Belt town, and there's a lot of Chicago envy from St. Louis, actually going back to the rail days when Chicago became the rail hub and St. Louis didn't, quite a while ago. And there's a lot of opportunity here in St. Louis to make a difference in the community. And that's what we really want to do with HUM. We've got our eyes on some nice property, old burned out factories in North St. Louis. We can turn it into warehousing and R&D space, hiring people and building up the community. That's a big interest in something we really want to do with their company. And in St. Louis, you can go out, you can make that happen. Everybody is committed in St. Louis to making St. Louis a better place.
Yeah, that's really true. And the other thing is, the cost in St. Louis is so much more reasonable than they would be in so many other places in the United States where you could do this. You mentioned the space that you've got your eye on. I bet you it's a fraction of the cost of what it would be in Boston or New York or San Francisco.
It's so tempting. LA. It's so tempting.
Yeah, totally. And to your point, people are going to be helping you. The city's going to help you. The community is going to help you. The school is going to help you. Everyone in concert working together to make sure you're a success, because they know it will really help the area and the community and the people. So let me ask you this. What were the biggest lessons so far you've learned about launching, and in some cases, you're in the early stages, maybe a little bit later, but in scaling the company through your experience so far? So we're with you, Byron. You may as well go for that. What do you say is the biggest lessons you've learned so far?
I mean, where to start? Should we pick a particular area? I think I think firing fast is probably a good one, and one you
That
think,
is
oh
really
yeah,
important.
that makes sense. I can do that. No, I didn't fire a guy fast enough, and it's kind of been biting us all year. So being able to come in and yeah, when things aren't going well, have a good heart to heart and make the changes necessary. That was a lump I took early on, and we're doing much better now. But it's that was a painful lesson to learn.
Yeah, that's an important lesson. I will tell everyone, it may seem maybe even harsh to some people that the first lesson you learn is, hey, if you're going to fire someone, fire them right away. Don't wait. But the truth is, long before you pull the trigger, and if you acted sooner, it would not only help the company, it would even help the person, to help the other person find the right thing for him or her. And that's a really important lesson. And that's one that even successful entrepreneurs have struggled with for years. Lloyd, what have you learned in terms of launching and scaling your business in the program?
Yeah, I've learned a lot. I think kind of to Byron's point, team is everything. I definitely had some team issues and over the past year or so. So definitely recruiting a team that aligns with your vision and is complementary to your skill sets is very, very important. I would also say just kind of being comfortable with being uncomfortable, more or less, just in the sense that for trial and error. When I was, pre-COVID, a big point of emphasis was getting distribution into retail stores, department stores. So calling different buyers, oftentimes I didn't get through there. I was always, stuck with the secretary or other gatekeepers. So just finding new ways, like going up to the store, saying, hey, I'm here to see the buyer with some of my samples, or just different modes of experimentation. So I would say just, I've learned to really not be afraid to put myself out there, especially if it's something that I'm passionate about.
And something I didn't ask you before, Lloyd, but why the name Tillman Ties?
Yeah, so Tillman is a family name of mine, and
Okay.
my great grandfather was a Pullman railroad porter, and they were known in the early 1910s and 20s to create the Black middle class. They had to be dressed really elegantly and nice, and be literate, speak well. So he kind of ingrained this way of just representing your best self. So it stemmed from him, and wanted to use the family name.
I love that. Would you say he was inspirational to you?
Yeah, absolutely. He inspired, my grandfather, my father, and it's kind of a trickle down effect. So super inspirational.
All right. Shannon, what have you learned? What's the biggest lesson you take away so far from launching and scaling your venture?
I think for me, I tend to be a perfectionist at times. So I've learned over the past 2.5 years that it's important to do your due diligence and have a good plan, but to be a little bit flexible. And sometimes it's better to act on the plan, kind of what Lloyd was saying, and maybe experiment a little bit rather than waiting for the perfect timing and the perfect plan to actually take some action. And this is especially true during this pandemic, that you really have to be flexible and nimble and be willing to pivot when it's needed.
Really true. I guess people say perfect is the enemy of good, and good is often good enough.
Yes.
And perfection is elusive and maybe never achievable, so forget about it.
Yes.
Tova, what have you learned?
I think my biggest lesson so far, being newer to the business area, was really just knowing when to take a step back. So, I really had this great idea. I'm working with my business partner. We built it up, and I just gained this momentum of excitement. Like, yes, this is a great product, great business. And I pushed a little too fast because there were definitely a few areas that I really wanted to focus on, like perfecting a recipe or making sure I have the flavors right. I wanted to post 14 flavors on the website, and I was like, this is nuts. This is way too many to start with. And being a two-man team, it would definitely be way too many to start with. So it was really just understanding when I needed to take a step back and kind of just look from a different perspective and slow things down, because it would be too much of a risk. So it's been nice to learn the foundations of business and kind of taking it step by step and like learning and comparing it with my own so that I can really make a successful venture.
Terrific. Now let's go, and each of you may be able to move back in your life. In other words, transport yourself back to when you were applying. Now, for two of you, it wasn't all that long ago, for Tova and Lloyd. For Shannon, it was 4 years ago. For Byron, it was over 2 years ago. What advice would you have to your former self that would be helpful to today's applicants? How do you decide where to go to get your MBA? How do you figure out fit? What are the steps you would take now that maybe you took when you were in that mode, or maybe you didn't take? Shannon?
Sure. Something I did when I was researching schools and deciding where I wanted to apply to was, I know it sounds simple, but really looking at the website, and I think a lot of schools give their curriculum on the website, and just looking at what they really emphasize as their accomplishments, something that what's their mission, what's their goals, and does that really align with what you have for yourself in your career? So again, I was really interested in looking at, for schools, what do they have to provide as far as entrepreneurship for curriculum, and really liked what I saw at WashU. But I think it's really important to look at, of course, rankings are very important, and that's a good indicator to look at as well. But as far as fit for you personally, I would suggest looking at that, because obviously what they're emphasizing on their websites and in their communications, and obviously from talking to people, is something that they're going to really care about and is going to shape your experience as a student.
True. Byron, your advice?
I'd probably tell my self, don't even worry about it. Don't spend so much time thinking about it. Don't spend so much time, applying and looking at every single school. To be honest, maybe the top 15 schools, if you look at just those 15 schools, maybe 3 are actually a good fit. So don't try to just go for the highest ranked school. Look for, like what Shannon says, look for what works for you.
Right.
But in the end, there's not just one school. You could probably do well at a lot of different schools, right? So
Yep.
there's a lot of phenomenal programs out there. You know probably better than anyone, John, that there's not a lot of degrees of separation between some of them, and
That's really true.
there's no sense in sweating it out over every little decision.
Yep. Good advice. Lloyd?
Yeah, I couldn't emphasize enough the fit. I think going into undergrad, it really wasn't a matter of fit. Just it was different. I just wanted to go play ball and to go to a good school. But one thing I learned coming to the MBA program, I took a lot of visits. I took visits to the schools that I was interested in and shadowed classes, and I thought that really helped my decision-making process, because when I came to Olin and I shadowed a negotiations course, it was honestly the coolest class that I ever shadowed. The professor was just really personable. The classroom setting was just very kind of embracing. And I think knowing that going in to your decision-making process, we all need different things. Some people need a cutthroat program. Some people need an environment like this. So it really comes back to, your value system and realizing what school aligns with your values. I would say that's paramount.
Tova?
I think the biggest thing for me is you want to not have this pressure of what like the school stands for. You can look at like the top 10, 15 schools and be like, oh, this name, like this is fantastic. Like, don't worry about that pressure, that social pressure, because the GPA, the GMAT, that doesn't always define you. There's
Right.
more to you than that. So you really, like what everyone's saying, look for a program that's really going to suit you and really push you for your own boundaries of learning. Because no matter where you are, it's what you do with the program and it's what you do with the degree in the end that matters.
So true. Now, here's the last and most challenging question I could ever ask anyone. And I've been asked to ask it of Byron. It is from an audience member. Now, are you ready for this? Here's the question. Here's the question for you. Does Lloyd root for the Cardinals or the Cubs?
Oh, it's Cubs all the way. I don't even care if he roots for the Cardinals. He'll change. He needs some instruction, but I figure from a Chi-Town guy, we can stand together in that. I was born on the north side, so it'll be Cubs all the way.
There you go. Okay, and I will say the Cardinals have had an incredible team, great farm system, one of the most passionate baseball fan towns there is. So is Chicago. But guess what? LA and Tampa Bay is in the World Series this year. All right. Hey, what a pleasure it's been to spend the last hour with all of you. I wish you great success. Maybe even more important than success, great fun. And that feeling of pride you get from creating something on your own and making something happen. Because really, the only people who advance this world are the people who make stuff happen. All four of you are making it happen. So thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Good luck to you. Stay safe and healthy.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.